Hey guys, it's Stacia. Welcome back to my channel, Reader C. So today, based on the title, we will be going over all the books I read in June. So I read 8.5. We'll figure out the half later. But yeah, so let's get into it. First, we're going to go over the books I read but didn't own. So the first of that was Of Curses and Kisses. So this is said to be a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I guess in a way there is. Like, they did incorporate the rose and a beast. I rated this book 3 stars. Honestly, I just wasn't really interested in the characters. Like, the 2 main characters were kind of boring. I don't know. I mean, the book wasn't bad. The story was fine. Like, it was a retelling. I'll give that to them. But it just didn't really seem, I guess, different enough. It kind of followed Beauty and the Beast, the angry guy, sweet girl, sort of sweet girl. But yeah, I don't know. It really didn't work that well for me. I didn't care as much for it. It wasn't a bad book. I just found a lot of the parts boring, and I actually needed to get the audiobook in order to finish it. But yeah, that's the first book. The next book I read was Opposite of Always. I read that for a buddy read for the mini-a-thon, which we have not had our discussion yet, but I'm sure we'll have that soon. But I actually really enjoyed that book. I rated it a 4 stars. The premise is basically this kid time travels back to this specific time where he met a girl, and he's just trying to figure out why he keeps going back in time. And I really liked how the author had expressed like the consequences, because he wants a certain outcome but doesn't know how to get there. So every time he goes back, he does something differently, but that changes a lot of other things. And I really liked that domino effect. So I thought that was really well done. I did really like the ending. And yeah, the last book that I read that I do not have a physical copy for was Outliers. That is more of, I guess you could say, a self-help book. I don't really think it's that much of a self-help, but it's actually a really interesting book. It goes over like success and how there's a lot of factors in it. It really isn't just like how hard you work. It like comes with opportunity and stuff. And it was just a really interesting read on like things you don't even think about could have an impact on your success rate. So I would recommend you guys check that out. I really enjoyed it. Okay, now on to the books I do own. So the first one, a new favorite of mine. I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This was my first Colleen Hoover book, and I picked it up because she could not stop talking about it. Like, she went on and on and on about it, and she just said I needed to read it. So I was like, okay, fine. I did it. I read it. And I loved it. This was definitely a 5-star read for me. I read it in one day. This is a good one. I have not watched reviews on this or really looked into what a lot of people thought of it. But if people said this book was problematic, I understand. There is definitely a problematic situation and relationship going on. Yeah, so there's kind of like flashbacks. So it's about this girl named Lily, and she meets a guy named Ryle, but she also starts reading a journal from when she was still in high school, I believe. And it was the journal she wrote when she was meeting and falling in love with her first love, Atlas. So it kind of goes back to like those days when she's reading her journal entry. It's kind of like a flashback. And then present day when she's with Ryle. So she's living her life, meets Ryle, all is going well, totally rooting for them. And then Atlas shows up, and then like one thing leads to another, and things are revealed. It's definitely heartbreaking. I really felt for Lily, and I got really attached to her. So like when things were happening, like you kind of want to root for certain people, but you know you shouldn't. I don't know. It's like a whole thing. This is an experience. I read it in less than 24 hours. Such a good book. I definitely want to pick up another Colleen Hoover in the future, but if all of her books are this like impactful and emotional, I'm just gonna need a break from Colleen Hoover for now. Definitely recommend. This one is so good. 5 stars. Like, I want to read it again, but I can't. My heart will just shatter all over again. But definitely a good one. If you have read any Colleen Hoover books, if you have any recommendations of the next one I should read, let me know down below. The next book I read was Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the same duo who wrote the Illuminae Files, which is one of my favorite series of all time. And I really wasn't a sci-fi person, but this is a book about, so there's like a squad of them, and they're kind of like the underdogs, like nobody really cares about them. Like they're kind of like the last picks. And then there's Aurora. And she was basically found floating through space, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, so one of the characters find her. Yeah, so she was basically like stuck in space somewhere for like a century or like 2 centuries. And they all go on a mission to find what they're supposed to be fighting. And yeah, things happen. I am planning on reading Aurora Burning next month. We'll see how that goes. I listened to this on audio just because their audiobooks are amazing with the sound effects and the full cast. So I'm waiting for the audiobook for the second one, but another 5 stars. The next book I read was actually a reread, and that was The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This was for my real life book club. We had chosen this for the month of June. This is just a very important book right now more than ever. It has to do with Star and the killing of her friend. So Khalil gets shot, and so that kind of causes an uproar in the community. And so it's basically all about the Black Lives Matter movement and how Star is, kind of going through all of that after witnessing her best friend get killed. And it's a very powerful read. So I highly recommend if you have not read this one yet. Next, I read Mooncakes by Wendy Wu and Suzanne Walker. This is a graphic novel. I actually rated this 3 stars. I was really excited because, like magic graphic novel, but I wasn't really too impressed. It's basically a pretty basic story. So this girl, Nova, and her friend Tam, and it's just like a typical little adventure story where there's a problem and they need to team up to fix it. I really didn't think anything stood out that much. I did like the art style. The art style is really cool. So I appreciate the art. I did like the art, but the overall story, it was kind of lackluster for me. I expected more, and I'm not sure why I expected more. I definitely picked this up on a whim. I've never heard of it before, but I just picked it up. I wasn't too impressed with it. It wasn't bad. I was just pretty much bored. It's a graphic novel and it's really short, so I did read it in a day, but it wasn't really that memorable, if I'm being honest, unfortunately. But yeah. The last book I read was The Hiding Place by CJ Tudor. This one I had very high hopes for because I really enjoy thrillers usually, but this one was a bit boring for me. I gave this one 3 stars as well. Apparently The Chalk Man is better. I haven't read it, but it's by the same author. Okay, so without giving it away, the ending just didn't do it to me. The ending seemed very rushed, while the beginning and middle was very dull, I guess you could say. The characters, I didn't really care for them. They were kind of just there. So I was kind of just reading through it just because it was the book club pick for literary thrilling. But for this one, I don't know. It just didn't work for me, which it didn't work for a lot of people when we had discussed it. A lot of people felt the same as me, where like the beginning and the middle was lacking and then the ending was really rushed. The ending was really abrupt and I wasn't really expecting it to be. I don't know. I felt like it could have just been better executed. There were definitely still times where my jaw dropped and I wasn't expecting something that had been revealed. But yeah, I don't know, wasn't for me. And then the half book I've read is Scythe. So I'm about halfway through. I'm going to finish it in July. This is by Neil Shusterman. I cannot give it a rating yet because I'm only halfway through and there's definitely a lot more that could happen. As of right now, it's definitely not a 5-star read for me. It's not bad. It'll maybe be a 3.5, maybe 4. We'll need to see. I just find that while the premise is really interesting, the execution is boring for me. So it's basically about scythes, and scythes are basically people who are chosen. So these people are chosen to kill other people because in this world, everything has been solved. Nobody's hungry, nobody's homeless, there's no disease, all of that. Like, everyone's just living their life. But obviously there would still be overpopulation. So there are scythes who are chosen and they go out and kill whomever for whatever reason. But I am hoping to finish this. Hopefully by the time you guys see this video, I'm done with it. And that is the hope. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this. So no rating yet, but as of right now, it's not a 5-star. So those were the 8.5 books that I have read in June. If you've read any of these and enjoyed it, let me know. Talk to me down in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. But yeah, that's it for the month of June. Just like, comment, and subscribe down below. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.